Hello fellow humans and welcome to the Madhouse. I'm Josh and today is Wednesday, so that means it's time for Top 5 Wednesday. Today's topic is your top 5 books with hard topics. That's not to say that it's necessarily something that's particularly difficult along the lines of a 500-page textbook all on the latest theories in quantum mechanics. No, more along the lines of books that are particularly emotive or difficult to deal with because of, what's that word, context surrounding them. Say for example The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath, because it's the world's longest suicide note and it deals with depression in a very interesting way, but that's not one of my suggestions, that's just to give you an idea. I hope you understand this because I don't have much time to actually film a video today. I'm going out to meet someone for brunch in a little while, and then I'm going to be out for the rest of the day and probably won't get back in until about 10 o'clock at night, and I don't have time to film then either. I have to prepare for work later, so this is all you're getting, I'm afraid. Sorry. So at number 5 there is Room by Emma Donoghue. I've done a review of this already, so if you've seen that you'll know that I really enjoyed the book. But it is certainly not easy. I mean, not to say that the language was particularly challenging, but the subject matter was hard. It hit me very hard, and I don't know why, because I have no experience with anything like this whatsoever. It's about a family, Ma and Jack, who, until about 2/3 of the way through the book, no, not 2/3, 2/5, sorry. Jack believes that room is the entire universe. He's grown up in there because his mum was kidnapped when she was 17 in the book, I think, or 19 in the film, I'm not sure which way around it was. And she is raped by her captor, and she gives birth to a child in there. And she raises him in the best way she can to explain to him what the world is like, because she can't really tell him about the world outside, because as far as he's concerned it's a daydream. He could never understand it. So the hard part of this is both the kidnap and rape aspect of it, which is horrible, but also then when they get out to the outside, which is fascinating, the fact that the world has moved on for everyone but them, that they were sort of trapped in limbo, and them trying to acclimatise. It's very difficult and absolutely fascinating, but not a light read. The only reason it wasn't higher in the list is because it is narrated from Jack's point of view, and Jack is a 5-year-old boy. He doesn't understand half of what's happening to him, and well, that may be a good thing because you don't get too many graphic descriptions, but a bad thing as well because you're left to fill in some of the gaps, and we don't know if what we're imagining is worse or not. There is The Martian by Andy Weir, which deals with isolation in its ultimate form. You're not just stranded on a desert island where, okay, you know that if you travel several thousand miles in any direction, you will eventually come across some people. There will be people in the ocean. But for Mark Watney, he is the only person on an entire planet. Again, geography is not my strong suit, so astrogeography, that sounds strange, but what would you call it otherwise? Just astrology? No? Astronomy, that's one. Is not my strong suit, so I'm not really sure exactly how far it is, but I know that it's at least 9 million miles. 9 million miles away from the nearest human being with no contact, no nothing, limited supplies, and he learns to survive. And okay, he does, spoilers, develop a way of contact eventually, but it's not exactly easy. At number 3 there is Atul Gawande's Being Mortal. I'm not going to go into much detail about this, but essentially the premise is you are a human being. You are mortal, so you are going to get old and die. Here's how to deal with that. At number 2 we have The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, which, if you're not familiar with it, it is one of the definitive dystopian novels, right up there with 1984 and what's the other one I always forget the name of? Brave New World and A Clockwork Orange. Those two. I always conflate those two in my mind, and I really shouldn't. It's because I got them both in the same edition. It's set in an alternate timeline where the 1980s were becoming hypersexualized. There were essentially brothels on wheels going around the streets, and various of us slips into depravity and sin, so that one day an extreme right-wing Christian group fabricates a terrorist attack on the Pentagon in the US, so that these people can then take over and suspend the US Constitution in the name of national security to enforce their beliefs upon the entire US. And some of the beliefs in there are terrifying because it's, well, all women must be subservient, they must follow very strict roles. It's biblical, it's stratified according to colour, which is a very common theme in dystopia. I have some thoughts about that. There are some women, handmaids, who are fertile, who are essentially ferried around like cattle to be mothers to the children of the infertile. They are there for sexual pleasure and gratification of their masters. The handmaids are even stripped of their names. She's no longer, well, we assume her name is probably June, although it's never confirmed. But she's called Offred because she belongs to Fred. She is the property of Fred. And that's how it works for all servant class women, but especially the handmaids. And it's really unpleasant and terrifying, and everyone should read this because it's not so beyond your imagination. You can see hints of things that could become this today, and that's what makes it all the more potent. Now for some honourable mentions, I'm going to say A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. You know the story of this one. Not exactly easy. There is also Les Miserables, which I would probably put in the list proper if I had actually managed to finish the unabridged edition. But I haven't. It's very long-winded. I'll get there eventually. I'm also going to say every single book in the Discworld series by Sir Terry Pratchett, plainly because everything has it in there somewhere. Now, I just want to make it clear that I could go for so many more of these, but I'm not going to because the list will be more like a top 50 and I don't have time to edit and upload that. So instead, I'm going to go for my number one pick, a book that I'm sure all of you will agree with me on that certainly is not easy. The complete works of William Shakespeare. On the one hand, for many people it is difficult to understand because the language is quite archaic, although I personally get it pretty well. Words are kind of my thing. But I would also argue that there is no single greater collection of explorations of the human experience than in William Shakespeare's writings. Just take King Lear, take Macbeth, take Romeo and Juliet, take The Tempest. These explorations of love, of grief, of death, of what it means to be growing old, of the human condition. It's utterly marvellous, and every single one of his plays, if you take the time to look at them carefully, give them all of the thought and attention they deserve, can change you. They can have such a potent effect on your life. I can't overstate it. I suppose if you want to go for the hardest Shakespeare play of all, let's say Titus Andronicus, because it involves kidnap, rape, mutilation of both the hands and the tongue, murder, lots of it, war, and then, oh yes, revenge of the worst kind, but also, if you've seen it, very poetic. Let's just say cannibalism, pies, and a mother. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please click like, share, and if you haven't already, subscribe. If you have any thoughts about any of these books in particular, or if you have any books to suggest for this topic, please let me know because I'm more than happy to hear them. I'm going to run now to go and catch that brunch, so until tomorrow, tatty byes!